Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the future.
Hello,
Here,
hello, everyone.
Hello.
here we are again at the end of the day in Malaysia. It's a very, very end of the day in Australia on this side of the screen. And then it's like middle of the day in there with Ambreen. So I'm really excited to have this
Well,
mix of,
it's actually the new day, so we're in the future.
yeah, someone is already in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we came together because today we have a specific topic to talk about. But before I get there, I just would like to warm up the room and get to know you all and just introduce you a little bit to the audience. So we will go with the lady first, of course, because we are gentlemen. So Ambreen, introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah. So, hello everyone, and thank you, Andrea, for hosting such a wonderful summit. It's been like I've been logging in and listening to different and watching different shows, and it's really insightful. So, thank you for that. Okay, let me start from myself. Okay, I am Amreen Nadeem. I'm a psychologist. I'm a founder of Psychology Talks, the host of podcast Psychology Talks, and I'm an author also. I'm passionate about spreading the awareness about mental health, and that's why I write a lot of articles, conduct shows, and do a lot of other things. So that's a brief introduction. You can move on to the other speaker. Yeah.
Let's celebrate with Cal jumping out of a birthday party.
Yes.
Should we sing for you? Is it
Right.
really your birthday? Yours next, Cal.
Yeah. Kel from the Transformational Group of Companies. Three companies working together, and we are the creators of Time and Freedom. So I'm over here having a party here in Thailand at the moment, but I'm an Aussie, and I love just to help young business owners and business entrepreneurs to gain that time and freedom. And the way I do it, three ways. Help them to get their thinking a little bit sorted out. A lot of people have got different ideas. I help them to also get their technology right and also build the right team to make that actually work for them. But it's all for me. It's all about time and freedom.
I already love the beautiful dynamism in the room. Let's go to another Australian Hungarian. You don't know that we have some common roots with Toby, so let's go to you, Toby.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. Toby Nagy. Thanks, Andrea. From Melbourne, Australia. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been a serial entrepreneur now for 30 odd years, or almost 30, 29 years. And essentially, I'm also a tribe builder. So I like to build amazing teams. But essentially, what I do is I've run this academy called the BCF Coaching Academy. And it's an online education institute for entrepreneurs that really want to launch their next big idea into products and services that customers really want and love. And I'm also a former university lecturer as well. So it helps me with all the frameworks and all the academic stuff and all the practical stuff I get from my experience as an entrepreneur.
And also organizing retreats. So there we go.
Really, Bali. Yeah, May
Very
2023. Come on down, all you guys.
Yeah. I hope we will do it in the GES 2023. We will end it in a big retreat all together.
So,
After the
plan it.
physical
wow.
event, we go to Thailand, visit Cal.
Sounds good.
Great.
Okay, plan sealed. Let's make it happen. All right. So today our conversation will be around 50 minutes long, and it will be about the future of startups and the startup world itself, because it's so dynamic. It's changing so fast. Today we're doing the first Women Startup competition here in Southeast Asia with a collaboration with a Hungarian brand who was thinking, why not globalize startups and why not bring it to here, to Southeast Asia, so that the Southeast Asian entrepreneurs can also have global visibility. And it went really well. We started with a few startups, but it was just beautiful learning that we just have to open the doors and provide these platforms and stages, and then these startups are unstoppable, right?
Yeah.
So what is your experience about startup work? Have you ever been like in a real startup pitching? Who would like to
We-
go first?
Well, I've actually been in pitches, but also judged pitches as well. And being a former university lecturer, part of our program was teaching people how to do elevator pitches, how to present, and then actually pitch the ideas for their startups to actually investors and marketers and entrepreneurs. And yes, it's amazing. Yes, I certainly have a lot of experience in that. Yeah.
Cal or
Yeah,
Amri?
I think mine was a fairly unique experience. So I was invited along. There was about 100 odd business owners, and we had to pitch to the media, and the media was there to pick 5 people, and so we had a pitch expert that really helped us to really refine that side of things, and then we all had to pitch. 100 of us consecutive with 1-minute pitches to a fleet of media, and that helped you refine not just what you did, but who you were. And I think that's a big part of where the future is really thinking about it. It's not just about what you're doing, it's about who you are and how.
Yeah, the story
I was going to
behind
say,
that.
I was going to say, I think it also stops you from rambling as well when you get that fine pitch correct. Trying to get in 2 minutes or 90 seconds. It's
Yeah, I would also like to say here that, what I have experienced is that, a lot of startup have their strategy ready for, that is they want to do for this level and this level. But what they miss out is like they have to conduct some research before launching any product or any services. And they want to understand the market first before starting any strategy or something. And that is I have witnessed lots of people and lots of startups that they have already a strategy ready to launch their product, but when I ask them that do you know exactly what is the current market, what are the target audience, so they are like a bit clueless in that. So I think here we need to emphasize that they need to understand first how the market is behaving, and then they need to come up with the strategy, right strategy. So
Love all the points and love how you connected it together. So I think that's something already very interesting, like how you start experience a pitching contest. It was so interesting to see these guys trying to make it for 2 minutes, only 2 minutes and 4 minutes of Q&A. And only 1 or 2 of them was below the 2 minutes. So we were such a friendly guys and juries that I said that, yeah, we are the most friendliest startup pitch I have ever seen, because when you watch Shark Tank and all these guys, it's just killing people on the spot. They
it's
are not
brutal,
really
isn't it? It's like Shark Tank. That can cut you down.
Exactly. So let's explore further. After your experience with startups, what do you think? How is the future of startup? What is the thing that is happening in this industry? Why can we see so many pitches, and why is it still so not so popular in some part of the world? So what is this balance which is going on? What can we do to change this?
Okay, do you want me to start? Because
Yeah. We can keep in order. Let's say like
yeah.
ladies, and then gentlemen. And
Okay,
then...
ladies first. Yeah.
it's okay. Like you can go ahead first. No
All right.
problem.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, I've done a fair bit of research in the field of entrepreneurship and startups actually, and it is quite interesting because one of the things I've come to the conclusion is these days everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, right? So Michael Gerber talks about that. He says it's called entrepreneurial seizure. Now, of course, not everyone can be an entrepreneur, right? That's the difference. But at some point in time, every single one of us has thought, I hate my job. I can do better this. I want to be my own boss or something along those lines. And obviously, most people don't have the resources or the commitment or the talent to be running a startup. But it is quite interesting. And I've come to that conclusion that the future now lies not in employment. I don't believe the future is about employment. I think the future is more about creating your own gigs. So you go from one job for 2 years to the next gig, to the next gig, to the next gig. And they're things that require entrepreneurial skills, right? So in effect, we're all going to be entrepreneurs in the future. Gone are the days where we're going to be 30 years, 20 years in a job. So you've got to learn to be able to have specialist skills in this area and things like problem solving, right? You've got to have emotional intelligence. You've got to have creativity. And all these things that it doesn't matter what job you have, they are all required in the future. So it is going to be an interesting time because the future is entrepreneurship. I don't know how you guys feel, but yeah, let's open up discussion.
Yeah, let's open the field. So who would like to go next?
Yeah, I think, agree with it. And I was always about to say the same thing. And you see a lot of things happening, especially the scenario is changing very rapidly. You see quite quitting, right? A lot of people are actually not very happy with the current job, and they are either planning to switch their job or trying to quit the job. So that is already the frustration with the job is already there. And as it said that Toby said that, you know, a lot of people are trying to be entrepreneurs and they want to be their own boss. But here again comes a very interesting point what I have noticed, because like I am a psychologist and see from the mental health perspective that a lot of people again want to be their boss, and they think that, you know, when they will start their startup, they want things to happen very quickly, and that doesn't happen. And the frustration which they actually face during the employment, they start facing the frustration when they start their startup. So a startup, it gives a lucrative title, it gives the lucrative, you know, sort of reward that they think that they will be their own boss, but it requires much more than that. So that is something that I see a lot, and that is what the future is, that people are coming into the field, they are becoming entrepreneurs. But again, it will, I will see, what I'm seeing is that it is going to lead again a burnout and frustration if they do not plan it properly, or if they do not have the expectations right. So that's my perspective or my point of view.
Kat?
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think across the globe we are talking a lot about diversification of incomes, and a lot of people who are in employment are looking to diversify. So in the history, people have gone to things like real estate or shares or gold, or they've gone to a multi-level marketing style of business to diversify their income. And I think what we've seen as well over these last couple of years, particularly going through that COVID period, is some businesses have drastically failed, not because they're a good business, it's just that they are affected by what happened in the world. And so now, as the future moves forward, people are going, how do I diversify? How do I not just have one income stream? And so the entrepreneurial sort of thinking is to have multiple streams, multiple ways, so that if something happens, we've got an income. And I think the danger in that is we try to, as a startup, they try to diversify too early. They don't get something off the ground before they start the next thing, and then all of a sudden they're spread too thin. That's the tip I'm saying, and going to the future, people are going to stretch themselves even thinner than what they are now. And I think there's a real danger in that. But at the same time, the real entrepreneur will grasp that, all right? And as Toby said, there's a difference between somebody who wants to go into business and the entrepreneur. If they've got the heart and the skill, diversification is actually quite simple.
Yeah, it's
Just
interesting,
some
Cal.
basic principles.
I was going to say, from my research, I've seen that in the UK and Singapore, and I'm sure Australia is pretty similar, that 50% of people that have a full-time job also have a side hustle.
Yeah.
So it's growing as well, which is interesting. So it kind of means two things, right? It kind of means that I'm working right full time, I'm not getting enough wage, so therefore I need to make a second income. Or they're thinking already about ditching their job, like Amber was saying, and then moving into entrepreneurship. That's 50% of the population, and quite heavily Singapore, UK. That's what the research was done. But like I said, I think America's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
And then we've got these things called the silent resignation and the quiet resignation, which is quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And let's not forget that also with the new spaces coming up like metaverse and Web3 and digitalization, the opportunities are there, new opportunities, and it's creating opportunities for people who couldn't really have these opportunities before. Like just think about Africa. They had struggled with even just accessing their salaries because there are a lot of things happening there in the background, right? But nowadays, with the new kind of way of having new ways of earning money and being able to access their own money and being able to see and freelance and do jobs online, I see the potential is crazy. The potential in that country, that continent is just crazy coming in. All the clever, academically trained, educated, super entrepreneurial people hungry for knowledge and for success. That's some space to look into and to think about, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I think there's also been the real reason why entrepreneurship has grown over the years. For two things. One is the democratization of technology. So I remember when I first started as a business, it was a thing called PageMaker, which is kind of like a desktop publisher, and the software itself cost like $16,000. And I remember my first computer was like about $15,000, right? So in the olden days, you always had to basically buy a lot of software just to get going. These days, you can just get just about any bit of software, at least for free. Try it out, get going, and then once you start making money, then obviously you move, to the freemium model, from the freemium model to the paid model. And in fact, when you look at freemium, how it works is 90% of people actually, like Skype, use it for free. And there's only 10% actually do pay for Skype and these sort of services. And because the system's already there. So what it allows people to do is basically connect opportunities. The second thing is interesting, what we're seeing is growth in ecosystems. Now, traditionally, with entrepreneurs, there was a lot of thing about, the characteristics of entrepreneurs. What sort of characteristics do we need or, to be successful? But the reality is, to be successful as an entrepreneur, the main thing is you need an ecosystem. An ecosystem includes things like finance, right? The ability to move money. And these days we've got all these amazing finance tools like Wise. I don't know if you guys know about Wise, but it's a really easy way to shift money across, and people can access those sort of things, access the tools. And with the advent of things like broadband, and Starlink and all those sort of things, people can now tap into those opportunities, right? These people who always probably wanted to have opportunities, but now with this democratization, it's like an enabler. And of course, we're also seeing fabulous business models. So it's two things: there's democratization of technology, and there's also amazing business models. Now, when I first started business, it was all about, is the market big enough? So you had to go for mass market. These days, to be successful, you've just got to find a niche market, tap into it. And because we're accessing globally, we can find peers and we can find markets anywhere. So there's different types of business models that are things like freemium and things like long tail business models are coming to play that allows people to have small volumes, but also the technology allows you to focus on particular niches. And this is like a global revolution. We've never had this. I remember when I first started mentoring, it was always, is the market big enough? Now it's like, just find a small niche and then just go there and dominate it.
Yeah,
I love the points there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, especially like the ecosystem that is now like bringing communities together. That is actually changing the entire business models. Like, like we don't need, or people don't need a lot of investment or something. As you can see, a lot of startups emerge and they become like the big name. Like you can see the Uber or the other, what is it called? The rental something.
Airbnb.
Airbnb, exactly. So like, these are these were the starters, but what they did was they didn't have any big investment or something. They didn't have like the big setup. What they did was they brought everyone together and then pooled and then boom. So I think the business model, as Toby said, it is changing entirely because of all the premium and the other the technology that is available. And the willingness for other people to become or have some side hustle. So these three things are, giving way or fueling the future of a startup, I believe.
And also you got our world has changed so much. You look back, like 15 years ago, all right, 50% or to 70% of the jobs now that are around that we know about today didn't even exist or even think about them 15 years ago. 70% of our jobs that most of us only hold it because of things that have happened in the last 15 years. So what's going to happen? And during the COVID period, things accelerated even faster. So what's going to happen in the future? It's just going to get faster and faster. And so I would see very much that it's only a matter of how big is your imagination, right? So you've got to think about it these days, and there will be something out there, that a bit of technology or a way to deliver that. So our genius, we talk about our genius a lot. What are we good at? Some people are just good at making up ideas. And if you're creative, wow, what could that be? We've got these futurists. There is roles and there's positions for people that just didn't ever exist even 12, 18 months ago. And so we've just got to keep our eyes and ears open. Opportunity is everywhere. And if we keep our eyes open, and opportunity is there. And as Toby said, you've got to be clear. Who are you niching to? And I think if I just add to that, I'm very much of the school. Definitely you got a niche. But don't think of that as, if I'm niching, doesn't mean you can't service outside of your niche.
Correct.
All right. So you might have a product that you're going after. For instance, you might be going after tradies, and particularly I'm going after carpenters. That doesn't mean that if somebody likes your product and they're a bricklayer or a plumber or an electrician, doesn't mean they can't use it. It just means you're not communicating your marketing to them and you're not tailoring it to them. So niching, yes, but think about how that can then grow over a period of time.
I think Cal, you're correct. And what I was referring to is when we talk about niching, is where do we start? Because other people is like, who is this product for? And they go, for everyone. And it's like when you start drilling deeper, it's like you really don't understand your product or your market. So what we do is we say, where's your beachhead strategy going to be? So in other words, you're the Americans and the UK. You want to land in France. You want to take the Germans. Where are we going to land? We're not going to land all over France, right? We're going to land in the most strategic places, 5 strategic places, and we call that the beachhead market. So where are we going to land? And then what I said to people was, begin your niche, and then dominate that niche, and then go to the next niche, and then go to the next niche, and go to the next niche. I mean, I know there's a coffee company in America, and it's so niche that it only does gun owners. Now, it doesn't serve anything different from coffee. It's just a niche, and they're a multi-million-dollar business, right? That's the lane. The other thing I was going to say, sort of with what Cal was saying, is what I've noticed since COVID is there's two types of people, right? Is people that are sitting on their hands at the moment, or scratching their heads, going, what's next? They're looking around and they're going, what's next? In a hope that maybe we can go back to some sort of pre-COVID days, the nice warm fuzzy days of pre-COVID, where we knew everything was in order. But that, first of all, that reality ain't going to happen, right? Because it's like S11. The world has changed phenomenally. And that digital transformation that we've seen in 18 months, that's like a 5-year cycle just being compressed. So the other types of people that I do see are the ones with imagination, like Kel was saying. They're thinking about, let's create the future that we want, right? They're not worrying about, the rules. Basically, the gloves are off now. And I mean, think of 2022. What else could go wrong? We've gone to a war. We've had a pandemic. We've lost a queen. I mean, I'm just thinking, well, 2023, what's it going to be like, right? Well, maybe the only thing that's not going to surprise me, or perhaps the aliens coming down and saying, surprise, we've been here for a long time, right? That's the only thing that will surprise you, or maybe won't surprise me, but what else could go wrong? So therefore, the whole thing about the future, it's about each of us able to create the future that we want to see, right? So we're all now on a level playing field. So those people that built the future, in the past, built the 40 years of business, well, they've had the rugs pulled out from under them. And just because you're an incumbent doesn't mean you're going to be there. Historically, there's been situations where incumbents have been around for 20, 30 years. Nowadays, the average lifespan of a company is 7 years. So just because you're good at something, tomorrow you can be out of business. So the future is there for us to take. It just requires imagination and creativity, and a bit of chutzpah, a bit of balls and stuff. Yeah.
I love the humor of it.
Yeah,
it's 2023.
And the thing is, the best thing that I would just say that, you need to be prepared for the future. That, like when COVID happened, nobody would expecting that this could happen. And like a lot of business just vanished within days because nobody was prepared for it. So one thing that, I've also seen and experienced, and if you even look at the other like renowned people like Elon Musk or something, what they do is like Elon Musk, if you even study this, he goes into, again, like as Kel said, goes into the niche market and creates the disruption. And he did it like across like at least 8 or 9 industries. He started with like electric vehicles, and now look at this. So I think the best thing is, you cannot change anything future, or you cannot expect what's going to happen, but you can be prepared at the moment that what's going to happen. So like you need to develop the right skills, as Andrea said, that metaverse is happening, the technology is changing so rapidly. If we are not catching up with it, we're gonna left behind, and everybody will be there. So the best thing is, and even as Toby said, like now this lifespan is only 7 years. So you can imagine how fast, how we need to stay up with all the technology of what's going on around the world. Like, because being an entrepreneur is not an easy job. It's not something like in employment, there is something going on. You know that there is your boss and this what's going to happen. But when you are an entrepreneur, you need to look at everything: finances, what's going happening around, what's your competitor is doing. And again, as Kel said, you need to have the imagination and creativity to serve your customer or client in a way that no other business is doing. Otherwise, you'll be lost. There are hundreds of people there serving or offering the same thing. But what is your unique point, which you can offer in a different way, which can click to your customer or consumer?
And Bree, can I just say that it's not just being unique, it's actually these days you've got to be remarkable.
Yeah.
And the word remarkable
Yes.
means worthy of remarking on. And when I say
Absolutely.
remarkable, it's the viral effect that they have. If you're not remarkable, you've got to be unique, obviously. You've got to be valuable. But if you're not remarkable, then you're just going to be left behind. Because you see all these great entrepreneurs, they're just doing remarkable things. The Elon Musks of this world, or whoever it is. There's not just Elon Musk. There's lots of other remarkable people. So think about how you can do this. And I think in my previous lecture this afternoon, I did talk about a Seth Godin video. And you can Google this, Seth Godin ideas. And this book it talks about how to become remarkable and gives examples of companies that become truly remarkable. All right. So remember that word.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think
absolutely.
another thing is to think about how you can really connect with your community and with your audience, because it's good to also like be visible. Let's just say that one of the most important things to be seen, but at the end it's harder to be seen in a bigger scale. So if you concentrate first on your environment and you have your buying customers around you, let it say it's 5, then 10 and 50 or 100, that can already start your business. And then after that, you can reinvest that money and to go bigger. So you don't have to imagine like you're a startup and you have to, okay, this is Elon Musk, I'm competing with him. It's not like that. You compete first on your own level, and then after you can compete on the bigger level and spend those marketing dollars, right? Because we don't spend the marketing dollars. Everyone is doing it. Like, to be visible on social media today, on the way, like those big companies are doing it, you have to spend millions of dollars per year. So it's not like in the old times that you send out a newspaper, or you were sending to every post box one boy and they were putting it into the post. It's not working like that because everyone is doing it. So it's like a Harry Potter letters when they arrive and they are all in the house, and then you don't know which letter has what because you just don't know. It's too noisy.
Yeah.
I think there's also, when you're saying about that, about getting known and stuff, there's been an era, and I say in this last couple of years, we hear this term, you've got to be known, liked, and trusted. All right, that's good. All right, so known, liked, and trusted. But as Toby just said, that being remarkable and resonating, like actually feeling like you actually have a similar passion or goal or whatever it might be, if that's where it's at. And so people people become very personal, and so the idea of being authentic, and these are the things that people now are looking for. All right, and that has changed so much. Even it used to be before people used to buy on price. There was an era of just buying on price, and then it was an era of it's all about the quality of service, and I agree with those. But now this is and I'm not going to trust the person. That era is sort of gone. Now it's not going to resonate, and you've got to do something that's very, very remarkable. Like what people are looking for is changing. That's changing at a rapid pace. So it's not just what you do, it's how you're seen to be doing it and how you're seen in the community. So if you've got a good business out there, I'm not saying you've got to be a goody two shoes. Like I'm off to a party very shortly, and I'm going to enjoy that. You don't have to be a teetotaler. You don't have to do things the way society says, but you definitely got to do things the way that your niche market expects you to do it. You cannot be one face in the public and one face when you're in private. You've got to be authentic, and I think there is a key piece for the future of business. Is to be that real self.
Yeah, and I think also when I talk about remarkable, people think that like they see a business and they say, I'm going to be 10% better. To be remarkable, to be successful in entrepreneurship in the future, you've got to be 10 times better, not just 10% better. Right. So that's what people forget. I'm just going to copy someone and just do it a little bit better. Maybe, do the systems or processes better customer service. No, you've got to be 10 times better. I mean, think about the concept of the iPhone when it first came, right? We were plugging around on Nokia 3210s, to do an SMS. You'd have to press, the button 3 times just to get C, and then you press the button to get H, 4 times just to get H.
Yeah.
It took you like forever.
Now I got a flashback. I have deja vu.
How do we go back? You know what I mean? And then this thing called the iPhone came, and it blew everything out. Not only was it a phone, it was a camera. It was it was a video recorder. It was everything else. And it's funny because I tell my mum about what the phone can do, and I just said, look, it can just do everything. You want a map, you want this, you want that, you want this, and she goes, how does it all fit in the phone? You know what I mean? So that's what remarkable is. And I think if we are going to be successful entrepreneurs, this is how we need to think. And I think it also alluded to today, earlier on in my lecture, that there's too many people that focus on the solution and the technology, right? And let me tell you, people do not care about your technology. They do not care about your solution. So as an entrepreneur, you've got to learn to fall in love with the problem, understand the problem. Don't just give me a solution, because it's not about the idea. Let me tell you, the idea is irrelevant, right? What it's about is understanding and connecting with the actual problem itself. So I don't know how you guys feel, but that's a very important topic.
Yeah. I would just add here that, it's like knowing the problem. And again, like having the background of the marketing research, I would just say that knowing your consumer also very, very important. That what do you want? Absolutely. What do they want? Otherwise, like, the problem is there, but you should have, I would say that you should have your own creativity, that how you can solve the problem. And here I would just quote Henry Ford, that he said, like, if we go to the consumer or customer and ask, they would have come up with the solution that they need faster horses. So, you pinpoint the problem by connecting with your consumer or customer, that what exactly is going on, what is the problem they are facing. But the solution is based on your imagination, your creativity, that how you're going to solve them. Like, back in those days, or as you said, that Nokia is just there giving this, focusing on the phone only, then it would have been there. And we've seen that Nokia is out of scene because it was focusing on the phone, and it now came up the iPhone, and it provides everything on our fingertip. So as you said, fall in love with the problem. But again, the solution comes from your heart, from your creativity. And then again, you need to be remarkably good at this.
Yeah. I love your analogy of the iPhone. I really do. And it's an amazing analogy, because it's a great model for us to actually use for our future as well. Is one device has so many things that it can do, but it's not just that. Like they come out with a new model that gets you repurchasing and gets you re-engaged every single year, and every year it gets better and better, and there's more things that it can do. And I think that's what our buying likes. We like to stick to the one place, and we also are excited when things are changing. We actually like to adopt to things nice and slowly and adapt to the new little bits and pieces because we get used to our system. And so people, once you're in an Android sort of space, people typically want to stay in the Android space. But once you move over into the Apple space, gee whiz, would you go back? Probably not. But making the shift is hard. And also being able to come up with what is the next piece without throwing away the past. What's the next piece that people are going to be looking for? What is the next need and the next problem, as Toby said it so beautifully? What is the next problem that people are going to be facing? And how do you solve that without changing your whole business model? And how do you include that without killing yourself and trying to do too much?
Yeah.
So there's so much in that model, and like the market that I'm in, like people thought I had rocks in my head going into the market that I'm in. It's such a competitive space, but I went in with a completely different attitude. I went, I'll let them go down that pathway. I've got a different pathway I'm going to go down. And I was determined to make it work. And it did. Why? Is because I literally adopted the iPhone model. I went, I'm not going to just sit down and say, here's my product. I'll move the button around here, and here. No, I'm going to improve it. And I'm going to improve it not once a year. I'm going to improve it every month. There is going to be a new feature every single month over the next 5 years. And I've already got it listed out. And some of those ideas haven't even been invented yet. I just think they're going to come up.
Yeah, I would like to go to the ideas part, because in a startup phase, in the life of a startup, I think there are two very, very important parts. One of them is the idea phase, and then one of them when they are already getting funding because they have viable products. And so I would like to start with the idea phase, where people find their ideas, how you test your ideas, what is a valid idea, is every idea successful, can every idea be something in the future?
Well,
let's talk about this topic.
Well, can I just say that the idea doesn't make any difference, right? Because ideas are a dime a dozen, right? So that's the first thing. Too many people get attached to the idea. So what happens with people is they get an idea, they might give two ideas, or they might go, they might go for the first or second idea, and they'll go off on it. And I say to people, the best way to get a good idea is have 10 ideas, right? And then have a process on how to assess that idea, right? So you just go through a particular process. And of course, one of the factors, and this is what I teach in one of my courses, right? But one of the ideas that you have to, part of that framework is it has to have a paying customer. So it has to have a market with a paying customer. So that's one of the frames. Obviously, things like it's got to be a good fit for the founder, really important. And also things like you've got to build a competitive advantage into it. So you've got to build your market dominant position. Now, and there's other things. There's about 7 elements in there, and it's got to be a rising market as well. So there's no point in investing in automotive, right? Why? Because it's an incremental market. If you're going to invest in automotive, let's go to EVs, or let's go to electrification of trucks. Let's go to electrification of planes. That's the new area, and the electrification of boats. So that's the 10 times factor. So no point in looking at, okay, let's get a new diesel engine happening that's 10% more efficient, right? So you really got to have that quantum leap. So you've got to be in these sort of markets, and there is a process to take it through, and it's just like the venture capital model. When you deal with venture capitalists, right, they look at say 2,000 ideas, right, and then they just filter it down to 100. Then maybe 10 get selected, right? But if they don't get 2,000 or 3,000 ideas, then they're never going to be able to pick a unicorn, right? Because the whole premises is around unicorn. So they might do 10 investments, 6 will lose money or just return their money. There might be 3 that will just do okay, 5 times, maybe 10 times. But then what they're looking for is that unicorn that's going to give you 60 times return, right? Which covers all the rest of the losses. But if you're only looking at 2 or 3 ideas, you're never going to pick the unicorn, right? So you've got to broaden the net and start looking at like potentially thousands of ideas to get that to that unicorn stage, right? So as you as an entrepreneur, when you're selecting ideas, you've got to go have a lot of ideas, right? Have a process to take it through, and then don't get attached to the idea. And that's the problem is as the person that assesses these ideas, it's really hard to tell people that their baby's ugly, right? And that's another thing. It's because they're too attached to that concept of their own egos, actually, and their own cognitive bias. And one of the things when you start a business, you always think, "Oh, this is easy to do." I go start the business, and what you realise, it's actually 10 times harder than what you think. It takes twice as long to start it than what you think. And if you're dealing with Asia, probably 3 or 4 times as long. And then when you make the projections on the capital, when you go to the venture capitalist, what does the venture capitalist do? Instantly cuts it in half, right? Because how do you know what you're going to project? Like, how do you know what you're going to sell? So these are some of the challenges that when you do come across a venture capitalist, and what to think about when you're approaching them. I'm sure we can talk about more of it, but I'll let you guys.
Yeah, I think it's a huge topic, so I think we will talk about it more. We had this startup competition. The problem was that they were asking for not enough money. They were asking too less. It was
that's a problem
that
too.
was the problem. Because that's the other side. When they are not confident enough, they don't know enough. So of course, the investors
they got to think big. They
don't go higher than you are asking for.
Yeah. Now, if the business isn't going to turn over at least $50 to $100 million, it's not a $50 $100 million business, then probably the VC would not be interested. That's why you need to focus on $1 billion markets. These growing markets that because if you give me a $10 million business, I'm not interested as a venture capitalist. It's like I can do that in crypto in a few months or whatever. You know what I mean? So you've really got to think this through. Yeah.
What about you, Kel and Ambreen? What's your view on the idea, the funding, the investment, how to start, what to ask for?
I think I would say this. I would say a high percentage, if not all business owners starting a business for the first time are undercapitalized. Yeah. All right. And so slow down. All right. If you've got a good idea, another 6 months is not going to take a good idea away. And so often people launch too early. They haven't actually done their research. Toby's saying this, your research, testing the different ideas. Like in your mind, it might seem like it's one idea, but it could be 10 or one idea with 10 different niches, whatever it might be. Take your time to do the research. There's nothing worse than going out there and getting started too early and also underestimating how much it's going to cost because it always costs a lot more. Lot more.
Always.
Absolutely. And I think there's a funny, if I just share just a very, very funny story. I'm here in Thailand and there's the local markets, and every Saturday and Sunday is a local market. And so you go into the market and every week somebody is gone and somebody has started up. And the ones that are gone are the ones that are selling the same thing as about 15 other stalls. And the ones that's starting up is the same as the other 15 stores. All right. And so basically one shuts down and somebody takes their position or starts the same business, 5 doors down. All right. But the ones that come there, and you can just see it. There's people that are desperate and they open up their store and all they've done is gone, I like that one. That seems to be busy. So I'll just do the same thing and I'll make it cheaper. Oh, like that. But the store that actually opens up and you can just see they've got some cash behind them. They've thought about it. That store goes off. And they actually literally puts in new, like, it's just so funny. It looks the same, but they just put the word new, all right, and then they've got their Thai word beside it, and everybody flocks to it. And now I've been here now for 4 months, and one of the stores there has still got the new sign up, and it has had it there for 4 months every Saturday. It's still new, all right, but it's still got a lineup and a half because it's different than everybody else. It's still food. Everybody's going there for food, and that's just the difference, So once you've got the right idea, and if you've done your research and done your right idea, just stick at it, and just pound away at that idea. And now that particular store has actually opened up a second store right beside itself with something else that's new. All right, completely different product, but they made a success of the first one, and they've just gone to a different product right next door, and they just moved between the two of them. Same staff. Now they've doubled their output. All right, with the same overhead.
Emreen, what's your
Yeah,
point of view?
yeah, that's
My
wonderful.
point
I
is,
actually agree. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, the biggest point is just take your time, do it right, do it once, and go for it, and you'll be a success. All right, you just got to get the right sort of input. Yeah, have a talk to people like Toby, and they are experts in getting the startup done.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with Toby and Kel, what they already said. I mean, it's as Toby said that, ideas are there already so much, and it's all up to us and how we execute it. What I've seen with the startups that they have wonderful ideas, but what they do is sometimes bad execution, or they do it, as Kel said, they do it so early. So the thing is, one of the major problem with the new startups is that they want their the ROIs to be too early. They don't have the patience. They either launch it too early without creating proper awareness, without creating a relevance, without connecting with the consumer. Because it's, no matter what, you might have a wonderful idea, but if people don't know about it, nobody is going to care. So the thing is, it's very, very important that the entire model, you need to work on each and every aspect, and do not have to make any, leave any end loose, because people should know you need to have a proper relevance with the audience, you need to have the idea that works well, that you can, because that you might need a supply chain, you might need some other stakeholders. So each of the things, each of every element needs to be taken care of in extreme details. You do not have to rush the process. Sometimes you might have some deadline, you make a plan that you need to launch the product in 6 months, let's say. But if it is taking long, work through it. I think, because it's much more important to launch it well rather than do it early, because unless if it's not well thought of, it's gonna fail anyways. So you need to work more on all the details, and check what is happening in the market. As I say, that there would be one brand, one day the same will come with the new edition with the new written on it, and it's gonna be like this. But how you can create a difference. And again, I would just also here mention that a lot of new entrepreneurs come and start up, and they just want to focus on making money. This is like where I actually say that you need to think beyond yourself, beyond like making money. You need to think that how you can create or give or make a solution or create an impact in your consumer or your customer's life. That is how if you have the thinking that you need to just make $100 now and then $200 now, double, you will end up, you will be frustrating yourself, because you might be running after the money and losing the right opportunities. So I think the main idea, when like people need to start or coming into entrepreneurship, they need to think beyond the self-interest and need to think that how they can actually create an impact in the world. And I think that is one thing that can lead them to the success, or that can create true difference.
Yeah. Amberine, I have a different opinion to what you just said. So I'll add to this. And you talk about getting perfection. Now, perfection is totally wrong in startups. What startups need to do, because people also think the startup is a business. A startup is not a business, right? A startup is a learning organization learning to become a company, right? At what point do they become a company? Is when they have a solid business model, a business model that not just does the first sale, second sale, but multiple sales. Then so people go, yeah, I'm going to register the business. It's going to open a bank account. Yeah, you can do that, but that's a startup, but it's not a company, right? So my view on this is that you've got to try and get to the market as quick as possible. And too many people focus on perfection, trying to perfecting it. And what happens is you get to that paralysis stage and nothing happens. My view is get to the market as quick as possible, right? When you create your product or service, only have 1 or 2 features, right? Then you can test it, right? If you've got 10 features, nobody knows, you're not going to know who's buying for what feature. And what you do as you go along is you launch it quickly, right? As long as it's not crappy, as long as it works. And in the early stage of a startup, people understand that it's not going to be perfect. And in a startup, you're not going to get the mass market anyway. So you're going to get early adopters and innovators, right? So they're a little bit more forgiving about, mistakes. And then you get customer feedback along the way that actually helps you grow those iterations, because no matter how much research you do, no matter how much time you spend, you'll never perfect it until you go to a customer, and then the customer tells you what it is. Now, if you wait too long, what happens is you could lose that opportunity, because technology moves so quickly. You've got to try and get to the market really, really quickly, right? And then let the market tell you how that your product or service is going to look like. But if you can't get a customer, then that's the problem. And too many people focus on making nice and shiny. So what they do is they focus on the pedestal, not the statue, right? And they make a nice, shiny, nice office like the one behind me, and all this fancy sort of stuff. But actually, they don't have a customer, right? I say to people, don't write a business plan in a startup. Total waste of time, right? Because the minute you write it, it's going to change. Because startup is like it's not like Groundhog Day. Every day changes, right? So because customers tell you different things. So what I say to people is spend 3 months, instead of writing a business plan, spend 3 months getting a customer, right? Finding out how to get a customer, prospect or something. Someone's got a problem. And I think before you asked, how do you get opportunities? Well, opportunities are coming rapidly at the moment because of change. Every day things are changing. Climate change, whatever change, social change, geopolitical change, war here, war there. All these things are giving us opportunities. So where the opportunities do come, usually is from your own experience, or usually what you see out there. Something you experienced something, it didn't work. Okay, I can do better, or whatever. But that's the thing, is to try and get to the market as quick as possible before the technology changes, because you only be a leader for a month. It's like being an Amazon book number 1 seller. You know what I mean? You're only there
but
for
I would like to add here one more thing, that the thing is, I know we cannot attain or achieve the excellence or the perfection, but the thing is, we need to aim for the excellence, because again, if what I feel is that if we are too quick in the market, then we lose the opportunity to be or to serve them. And yes, we do learn from the experience. But I think even that experience should come from a well thought of plan. It shouldn't be like, we just do it. I wouldn't say that go for the perfect plan or compete the Amazon or the big giants of the market. But at least whatever you're trying to do, go for that. Aim for the excellence. It's not something that you need to go and learn to swim in the market, because then you will I've seen that they will incur more losses rather than, and that is the point when they feel disheartened, that they will lose money, they will lose time, and they say that it's not working. So whenever they plan to launch, I'm not saying that they need to spend like years and years for the research and everything, but whatever they're doing, just do it well thought of, plan it properly, and then execute it, rather than just for the sake of urgency, don't miss out the details. So that was my point.
Yeah, I kind of
I love it. I wanted to do the
I
debate.
disagree with that.
No, that's fine.
Totally, my experience, it doesn't work. And because excellence is a byproduct of doing something good. Unless you know what you're doing, you can't be excellent at it. So you've got to learn to know what you're doing first, and then you've got to trial. So with my process, what we do is, instead of spending 2 years trying to figure it out, scratching our heads, trying to be excellent, what we do is, in my process, we can figure this out in 3 months. And I had one client, and he had his from India, and he had this idea for a fintech app, and he went through my program just recently, and he worked it out in three weeks. He said 2.5 weeks later, he goes, this is not going to fly. Now, no matter how much resources he put into it, it wasn't going to fly. He could have made, perfected, excellent at whatever it is If he didn't have a customer, he could have spent the app writing because of an app, right? And then if he has no customer, and I said, go out, speak to 30 customers. He went to speak to 12 customers. And then all the 12 customers said, this is not a problem for me. And then all bang, he's on to the next idea. And that's what you got to do. You got to learn to fail early, fail quickly, fail small, rather than spending money trying to perfect it. Because if it's not going to work in the first instance, then why spend money on excellence and perfecting it? So my approach is, instead of spending 50 grand on something or 100 grand on something, spend 5 grand testing it. And that's the process that I offer, is that we test it early. And then, hey, if 5 grand, you lose 5 grand, no big deal. You lose 50 grand, hey, you're in the shit. You lose 100 grand, you're in the hole, basically. So
I think I have to bring you back, Toby, because it's your topic. So I want to make a balance here for talking. Thank you so much for giving your points. And we could go on and on and on. We almost spent the 50 minutes. So I would like to have one more last question to each and every one of you, and just quickly answer it so that we can slowly and nicely close this topic for tonight. So the question is, what would be that one thing that you would say or you are saying to startups or companies who are thinking about pitching their ideas? What is that one thing that they should focus on when they are going to a market or going in front of a competition and a room full of juries? So I would just put it out there, and all of you please answer it, and then we will close this conversation. And if you want to continue, guys, if you're rewatching these sessions later, please reach out to Ambreen, Cal, or even Toby, because they are so passionate about the topic that you can have a great conversation with them. So let's start. How would you do it? What would be that one advice that you would give to a startup?
Ladies first.
Ladies first, Ambreen.
Okay, sure. Okay, like, as you know, my approach is a kind of bit of philosophical also, because a bit of I would just say that whenever you want to start a business or anything, you need to be very clear about your objective. What do you want out of it? Your object. If you're not clear that what do you want, then I'm sure that you will be lost. You'll be going here and there. So first, my advice would be, you need to have a clear focus, clear objective, clear purpose defined. So that's short and brief.
Thank you so much. Cal, you're next.
I would say that, other than the opportunities, I definitely agree with Toby. You know, have a broad spectrum of opportunities, but go in, once you start looking at those, less is more. All right, less detail, less stress about it. Less technology, just don't try to do too much too soon. Less will give you more traction than you think you can. And if it doesn't work, move on.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you so much. And let's go to Toby.
My advice is, if you're starting a business, don't even go there. Build your team and community first, right?
Yeah.
That's really, really important. Because your investors will not invest in you if you don't have a team. Investors will not invest in a single founder. Why? Because a single founder, you got to do marketing, you got to do HR, you got to do sales, you got to do technology, you got to do, and no single founder in this world can do everything. All right. So build your team first. Use Jim Collins, get on the bus methodology, pick your people, put them on the bus, get the right people on board, and work out where you're going to go next.
Love it. This is a perfect finale for our conversation. Thank you guys for jumping on board. I love this conversation, the sparkles, the debate, the versus this and that. So I hope you gained a lot of values, and spend your nights well. Have an amazing birthday party out there, Cal. Have a nice afternoon and evening, Ambreen.
Thanks, Ambreen. Thanks, Cal.
Thanks,
Thank you
Andrea.
so much
Thank you,
for
Cal,
being here.
Toby,
Thank you,
and
guys.
Andrea. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for being here.